One of our grandfathers came to live with us, and I still remember all of the excitement we had in creating room for him. We had to make a bedroom on the main level so that the stairs would not be an obstacle for him. And one of my sisters and I combined our dressers so that Grandpa could have one of our dressers as well. And then we put the best chair by our big picture window so that he could look out on the neighborhood. And I remember for those months that he was with us, what an exciting time that was and how many blessings we received from him. He shared a lot with us about his boyhood and growing up in the late 1800s. He also told us a number of stories about my dad as he was growing up. And so those are very much a blessing for us. Our first reading today reminds us of that connection between hospitality and blessing. We have Elisha who has gone into a town, and a woman invites her into his home for a meal. So that each time Elisha comes, he returns to their same home and shares in a meal with them. Well, she and her husband discover that he is a very wise man of God, and they want to offer even more hospitality for him. And so they create a room in their own homes for him, so that when he comes, he not only can share a meal, but also stay with them. Elisha then says, there's something that I would like to do for her in return, some blessing that I would like to give her. And Elisha's servant says, her husband is quite old and she doesn't have a son. So Elisha goes to her and says, at this time next year, you will be fondling a baby son. Again, the blessing given to her for the depth of her hospitality. We see those blessings too in our gospel, but our gospel at first can be a little difficult to listen to because it begins by saying, if anyone loves their father or their mother, their son or their daughter more than me, then they're not worthy of me. Or Jesus Christ also says in there, if you don't take up your cross and follow me, you're not worthy of me. He's not telling us to ignore those important relationships in our lives, but to make sure that we're in right relationship. Because that gospel then also goes on to talk about the blessings we will receive when we welcome anyone who comes into our lives as a gift from Jesus Christ, or when we do anything that we can to reach out to others. We are also blessed. When I was ministering in Gillette, each summer we would have somewhere between 100 or 150 migrant brothers and sisters come to town. And they would work at a green bean canning factory called Seneca. And one of the things we thought was very important as a parish was to make sure they felt welcomed into our community. And so we began a welcome picnic. And there were a couple of us who decided to learn some Spanish so that we could at least say a few words to them in their native tongue. And I was one of those, but it didn't go very well. I'd kind of try a word here and there, and I know I wasn't saying what I thought I might be saying. But they were so amazingly patient and amazingly kind. And one of the gentlemen said to me, sister, it doesn't matter if you say the right words or not, because we can tell that your heart is in the right place. And friends, that's what our gospel is reminding us today, to make sure that our hearts are in the right place, to make sure that God is indeed the center of our lives, that main relationship in our lives is Jesus Christ. And if that's true, then all other relationships will be blessed as well. And so, friends, as we listen to these readings, as we take some time during this week to reflect more fully on them, let us ask God to help us look at the ways in which we offer hospitality and ask God to help us deepen those ways. Maybe, again, we won't be able to invite people into our house, but we surely can invite them into our lives and into our concern and into our prayer as we welcome them into our parish. And let us also ask for the grace that we need to keep God as the center of our lives, so that we can always be sure that indeed our hearts are in the right place.